We are in the midst of, somewhere towards the middle, approaching the middle of the holy Vishnu Sahasranama. So, Amritashodbhavo we saw, which means the source of the moon. Bhanuhu is the radiant sun. Shashabindu is the moon. Sureshwara is the lord of all devas. Aushadham is the medicine for Bhavarogam, Sansara Roga. Jataha Setuhu is the bridge of the world. We also saw that he is the one who controls all karma. And we saw that beautiful shloka which says, Yatha dhenu sahasreshu vatso vindati mataram tatha purvakritam karma kartaram anuvindati. Just like a calf, even among thousands and thousands of cows, will find its mother cow. Likewise, any karma that you have done, wherever you go, it will come and find you. Right? There is an absolute mastery of the Lord in giving out the fruits of your karma. And no one can escape it, however. Then the Satya Dharma Parakramaha, he of unfailing dharma and prowess. We go to the next sloka. Bhutabhavya bhavannatah pavanah pavano nalah kamaha kamakritkantah kamak kamapradah prabhu. Bhutabhavya bhavannatah. Most of these names by now, by going through these names, you might be even instinctively getting to know the meaning. Bhutabhavya bhavannatah is the Lord of the past, the present and the future. Pavana means air, but in specific context it means purifier. Air is a purifier. Pavata iti pavanaha. It purifies, therefore it is called air. Pavanaha pavatamasmi iti bhagavad vachanam. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord says, Krishna says, of those that purify, I am air. Pavanaha. Parasara Bhattar says, he who moves about everywhere without hindrance is Pavana. Pavana, Pavano. Pavana means, again, purifier, as well as he who causes motion is Pavana. He is also the purifier. He who causes motion, Bhishasmat Vatah Pavate. Right? Because of fear of the Lord, Bhishasmat Vatah Pavate. Air moves, says Taittiriya Upanishad. Analaha. Anala, as such we quickly know it as fire, but in this context, Anala is Jiva, the individual soul. Why is it? That is the meaning that Adi Shankara ascribes to it, Jiva, Jivatma, to Anala. And Parasara Bhatta said, Na alam, na paryaptam. He who is not satisfied fully when it comes to helping his devotees. The Lord is never satisfied. He says, I have not done enough, he thinks, as far as devotees are concerned. So he is called Anala. Kamaha, kamakritkantah, kamah, kamapradah, prabhu. Kamaha, one who destroys kama. Destroyer of desire. Ha is usually Hantaram, one who destroys. Da is one who gives. Right? When you see some name like Mokshada, means one who gives moksha. So Kamaha, one who destroys kama. Kamakrit. The meaning given by the Acharyas is fulfiller of desires. Kamakrit is fulfiller of desires. Instinctively to me it appears to be one who creates desires. But it says meaning is fulfiller of desires. Kanta. Kanta is, you know well. Kanta means handsome, beautiful, charming. Kanta. Kanta. Kamaha. Kamaha means desire, but the Acharyas explain this as he who is desired. So the Lord is desired, so he is called Kamaha. Kamapradaha. Kamapradaha means one who gives desires. The Acharya say he is one who grants the desires to his devotees. Prabhu, he who has, Prabhu is supreme. Prabhu is, Prabhu, supreme. But what kind of supreme? He is he who has a supreme power to attract all minds is called Prabhu. And Acharya Shankara says, Sri Rama. Yugadikrit yugavarto naikamayo mahasana adrishyo vyakta rupascha sahasrajidanantajit. Yugadikrit yugavarto naikamayo mahasana. These names that come in this sloka, Parasara Bhattar says, refer to Vatapatrashayi Avatara of Lord Narayana. What is this? Let us go into that little bit of story first and then we will come back to this slokam. What is this Vatapatrashayi Avatara of Narayana? Most of you would have seen this picture of baby Sri Krishna lying on a banyan leaf, suckling his toe. Very beautiful picture of Sri Krishna. Baby. So that story, it comes in Bhagavatam, in the 12th skanda of Bhagavatam, the last skanda of Bhagavatam, towards the end. And the story is of Markandeya, the immortal sage. So, Suta is being asked about Sri Markandeya, saying, we have heard that Markandeya is actually seen the Pralayam, but he has been born in this yoga. How could he have seen Pralayam, etc.? If you can explain, how did he get immortality and all that? So Suta is telling, it's a long story, I am giving it in brief. So Suta tells about Markandeya, how he was initiated into the Veda by his father, who was also a sage, and Markandeya is a young sage with matted locks, deer skin and staff, and leading. About Markandeya, Suta is telling the story of Markandeya. Markandeya was a young sage, heavily, very, very deeply spiritual. He used to worship every day Lord Hari in 5 forms. At dawn and at dusk, he will offer worship to Hari in the form of the fire. He will offer worship to Hari in the form of the sun, Surya Narayana. He will offer worship to Hari in the form of his Sadguru, to his Guru. He will offer worship to Hari we saw the fire, we saw the sun, we saw the Sadguru, and then in his own self as Paramatma, he offers worship to Hari, and then offers worship to Hari in the form of the knowers of the Veda, the Vedavids as well. So in these 5 forms, he'll offer worship to Hari every day, and he was a great ascetic who stilled his mind, senses, everything. Markandeya. Bhagavatam tells this story of Markandeya. Bhagavatam tells this story. So there it is. So there he is, and he is doing all this, and he is in many manvantaras he is doing. He is just ageless now. He is absolutely ageless, and he is continuously, when he comes to the current manvantara, what happens? Indra now gets worried that this ascetic sage is doing such, he is a Naishtika Brahmachari, he is a lifelong celibate, plus he is doing such great tapasya, and he is absolutely bang on, rock onto the Vedic path, everything. So he is worried, so he decides that he has to disturb this. Right? So he does what Indra does well. So he arranges a complete program for Markandeya, disturbing his tapasya. As such, Markandeya is living in a beautiful hermitage. All he has to do is to add some color to it. So he does that. He sends his Apsaras and Gandharvas, and Kamadeva himself is assigned personally to take care of this job. So he comes himself along with his bow and arrow. And the Gandharvas with their music and their dance and all that, and Apsaras, Punjika Sthali, one of the highest of Apsaras, is personally allotted a role where she goes and she's playing with a ball and all that to disturb. Yeah? Like that, just like Rishishringa. So they does or she does, and it's very graphically described in the Bhagavatam, you know. So people who are interested in such graphic details should go to Bhagavatam. Anyway, so there she is. She's doing all that, and the wind, of course, blows away her dress. And right at that moment, our man in Kama Deva takes his bow and arrow and shoots at Markandeya. Weather is beautiful, it's breeze, the fragrance wafting in the air, flowers, a moist flower-touched wind touches him. The evening is just turning to night, the full moon is up in the air, the music is playing, everything is just perfect, and he shoots. And nothing happens to Markandeya. He is completely unmoved by any of this. He's just not concerned, nothing happens to him. So immediately this entire project team is in a state of shock. This has not happened to them before because they have given it the best shot and nothing has happened. So they feel like a group of children who have, by mistake, they have tried to play with the snake and the snake has stood up. So what will they do? They'll all freeze. And they just retreat in fear, and they go back to Indra and say, project failed. And Indra is now shocked himself. Okay. Meanwhile, when he has, at this stage, Nara and Narayana appear before Markandeya. One white and one black. Rishis, both with 4 arms, Nara and Narayana, who are actually Krishna and Arjuna, right? I mean, Krishna is Narayana and Arjuna is Nara. Krishna means black, Arjuna means white. Direct meaning of these words. The Arjuna tree, if you see, will have a whitish hue in the tree trunk. Mallikarjuna temple has got Arjuna tree. Madhya Arjuna temple, which is Tiruvallai Marudur, has got an Arjuna tree. Puttarjuna temple, which is in Tirupura Marudur, has got an Arjuna tree. In fact, Tirunelveli district, if you go, you will find all over the place by the highway Arjuna trees. So, Narayana appear before Markandeya, and he is, in bliss, seeing the Lord in front of him, and he bursts out into their stotra, praising them and all that. They are very, very pleased with him. And then they offer him a boon. They say, is there anything that you desire? So he says to the Lord that he has a desire to have an experience of the Lord's Maya. Of the Lord's Maya. He's brave enough to ask for that experience. The Lord says, so be it, and goes off to his ashrama in Badarik ashrama. They go off to Badrinath, saying, so be it. So there he is doing his daily chores, Markandeya in his ashrama, and suddenly it starts raining. A crack of thunder and lightning. Heavy rain with thick rain, like a cloud burst. Suddenly water level starts rising. Soon rivers are completely overflowing. The ocean is jumping out. And before he realizes there's water all over and he's washed away by that water. And that water is rising, it's going up into the sky. There's water covering everywhere. There's thunder, there's lightning, and there are aquatic animals and creatures and crocodiles and sharks and everything rushing and he's swallowed by them. Sometimes he comes out, he's all over, and then he's darkness everywhere. All his not matted locks, etc., which is kept, all that opening out, and he's just being torn apart. Only thing he can do is to try to remember Vishnu, and he's trying to do that. But it is not easy, because he's just tossed here and there, and he's feeling fear, and he's feeling all kinds of feelings. And I'll read out direct from the Bhagavatam some of this, and then we'll come back. So the great sage, everything has been washed away, though there's a pralaya is happening. He's the only one who's surviving. The great sage, the lone survivor, floundered like one who was stunned and blinded, his matted locks flung about, consumed by hunger and thirst, plagued by sea monsters, buffeted by fierce winds and waves, and overcome with weariness. He was engulfed by impenetrable darkness and could not make out the directions, the sky or the earth. Now he would be sucked into a fierce whirlpool, then thrashed by the billows, and bitten by sea monsters that fought with each other over him, afflicted to boot by bodily ills. He knew grief, bewilderment, misery, happiness, fear, and death. As he drifted in the flood, it seemed to him, who was confounded by Vishnu's Maya, that millions and millions of years must have passed. He simply was floundering in time. Once, while he was thus floundering, suddenly he saw a little island, a slightly elevated place on earth, and on that place there was a banyan tree. So he went there, and there he saw this leaf, and lying in the fold of the banyan leaf, an infant whose splendor swallowed up the darkness. He describes that infant. Markandeya marveled to see him, dark green as an emerald, with his gracious lotus face, his conch-shaped neck and spacious chest, his shapely nose and beautiful eyebrows, with enchanting curls that swayed gently under his breath. Just breathing slowly, the child, and the curls are swaying gently, with pomegranate flowers in his ears, with charm by the resemblance to the shang, to the conch, with nectar sweet smile tinted with rose by the splendor of his coral lips, with the far corners of the eyes red like the inside of a lotus, with the laughing look that warmed the heart, with the belly shaped like a banyan leaf, and the deep navel whose folds quivered as his breath came and went. And as he looked, he lifted his lotus feet to his mouth with his dainty fingers and sucked his baby. Seeing this baby, Markandeya's fatigue fell from him at that sight. All these million years of floundering, the tiredness, the weariness, all just went away in a second. And the lotus of his heart and his lotus eyes alike expanded with delight, and the hair on his body standing on end, he advanced towards the child, intending to question him. Though looking at the wonderful figure, he had a shrewd suspicion as to who it was. But before he could do anything, what happened? This child took a breath, and along with that breath, Markandeya was just sucked into that child. Boom! He had gone through the nose into that child. And what did he see when he went in? He saw the world lodged in its entirety as he had existed before the deluge. He was astounded to see all. He saw the sky, the heaven, the earth, the stars, the constellations, the mountains, the seas, the rivers, the islands, the continents, the apsaras, the gandharvas, the forests, the different countries, the streams, the towns, the mines, the villages, the settlements, the people. He saw the gross product, he saw time, he saw his own ashrama, he saw himself. He saw the Himalaya, he saw everything. He saw the very banyan tree, which he saw, everything he saw this child himself inside. And the child was still smiling at him from there. And on seeing the child, he said, now I got to again catch it. So he darted forth towards it to embrace it. And just as he was going towards it, the child breathed out and poof, he had come out again. And he said, now I'll catch it again. But before he could do anything, everything vanished. He was back in his ashrama. As before, he had asked that question of Maya. He had an experience of this. This was his experience. And he was sitting there and went into deep samadhi. And there, passing by, was Shiva and Parvati. And Shiva told Parvati, you must give him your grace. And so, but he was in deep samadhi, unconcerned. He had no desire left. That's what Shiva says. Shiva says, this Brahmarishi most certainly entertains no desires, not even for liberation. He has by his devotion attained supreme love for the exalted Lord that dwells eternally in the heart. But let us hold conversation with the saint of Bhavani. The supreme gain for men is association with the good. Saying thus, the Lord entered the heart, Shiva entered the heart of Markandeya. And suddenly Markandeya beheld in his heart the matted locks, the Lord Shiva. He was astounded. Astonished to see Shiva within himself appearing there in a flash like the rising sun with his matted locks, ruddy as lightning, 3-eyed, 10-armed, lofty in stature, clad in tiger skin, carrying a rosary of beads, the little drum, the skull, the sword, the bow, the trident. Who is this? What is this? Wonders Markandeya, seeing this. And he emerges out of samadhi, and there he sees in front of himself Rudra and Rudrani standing in front. And he says, what can we do for you? And he prays to the Lord and sings their praise, and then Shiva grants him of his own volition. He grants him immortality, and every blessing is a long list. So this is the story of Vatapatra Shahi, that baby in the leaf, that Parasara Bhattar says is the next set of names. Right?